видеть у нас на ивенте. Хотела бы сказать несколько таких правил, которые у нас бывают в Телекомке, когда проводятся митапы. Первое – это то, что данный митап будет проходить на английском языке и около часа, плюс-минус. Если у вас возникают какие-то вопросы, то можете задавать их, поднимая руку. Задавать можете хоть на русском, хоть на английском языке, как вам будет комфортнее. Что еще у нас есть такого? Ну, базовое правило – это просто не шуметь, не переговариваться. Если есть какие-то срочные дела, если есть что-то вот очень важное, выходите, чтобы никого не отвлекать. Ни сидящих возле вас, ни спикеров. Чтобы все было хорошо, аккуратненько, круто. Вот, что еще? Наверное, можем начать и передам слово Яне. Давайте поаплодируем.
Hi everyone. I speak both English and Russian, so if you guys want to, as Alisa said, if you want to ask questions or interrupt me during the sessions, please feel free to do so. If you don't understand something during the lecture, also feel free to interrupt me and I will maybe say in other words or explain slower. It's no problem with it. I think we don't have my screen. Let me reshare. Сейчас еще раз попробуем. Okay, that will work then. So, hi everyone again. We are going to dive today into prompt engineering. So, how many of you have used something like ChatGPT before? Okay, so everyone. Okay, let's then maybe narrow down the question. How many of you used ChatGPT in the last 3 days? Let's narrow down even more. How many of you use ChatGPT today? Okay, so I think we all agree that everybody really needs this because everybody uses it every day. Okay, so let's do a quick introduction of who I am and what I do for work, and then we can maybe discuss the plan for today. So my name is Jana. I am currently a master's student at University of Saarland in Germany. I also work as a research assistant at Language Computation and Cognition Lab. Here are some of the recent works of our labs. So we are doing mainly work on natural language processing. So all the, not only kind of ChatGPT systems, but everything that's related to processing language. So if you also use, I don't know, Google Translate or Zipo or some other technology, I don't know, maybe voice mode on your phone, autocorrect on your phone, that's all the kind of like an umbrella technologies that we are working with. And we are mostly working with the theoretical side of them. So we are looking at how to make everything better and, you know, have the artificial intelligence and robots take over us. Yay. So the plan for today would be something like we are going to go over the basics of large language models, so the backbone behind AI. Very briefly going to talk about it. We're going to kind of dive deeper into what makes a good prompt. We will talk about specific techniques to make prompts better, and we will try to make it interactive. So if you have your laptop or your phone, like if you can like have a ChatGPT on your phone, or if you have a laptop with the web page open, you can just follow from it as well. There will be some interactive parts that you can also play around, but mostly I will also probably be showing things on my screen. So let's start with a bit of interactive element. How do you think which photo is AI generated, on the left or on the right? Both photos. Yes, that's actually the right answer. They're both AI generated. How did you understand that they are AI generated? you ever generated like a similar photo? Okay. Okay. So everybody agrees that both photos are AI generated. Okay. They're very, very realistic, right? So, well, AI can do a lot of things nowadays, and this was just a very small illustration. Has anyone heard like an abbreviation LLM before? Large language model? Okay, okay. So we have ChatGPT is probably commonly referred as AI, but what it really is, it's a large language model, which means that it's kind of a black box that we don't, sorry, black box that we kind of don't understand how truly it works, because you have some words, the prompt that you put in, and then it spits some text out of you. But nobody in the world really knows how it works. We just made something like people usually do, and we're happily using it, but we don't really understand, like we cannot predict all the time what output it will give us based on the input. So in that sense, I like to look at LLMs as a black box. So we don't really understand what's going on inside. We're not going to go very deep into this, but maybe for prompting, it would be good if we could just look at 3 stages that happened for an LLM to work. So in order for ChatGPT, something like ChatGPT, we'll keep it as an example for now. In order for it to answer your queries and help you in your tasks, it needs to go through this 3 stages in orange, purple, and green. So firstly, you have, let's say, kind of like a computer program that collects a lot of text. Imagine like a child that's in the 1st grade in the school, and the child starts reading textbooks. Child starts learning math, languages, physics, biology, just by reading. Imagine a person who is very good at reading, and they read and read and read, and they don't forget anything. And they just like collect all this information. That's called pre-training. So effectively, a child in school is a pre-training language model. Then a child goes to university, for example, after school. And what university does is gives you some specific knowledge. So for example, you choose to study physics at the university. So there, in the fine-tuning stage, after the model has already collected this knowledge, you get some specific knowledge about the world. Like you become better at something very specific. For example, if you go to university to study physics, you become very good at physics. But at everything else, you're about the same as you were before, given that you have not forgotten anything. So this is usually if you heard something like, oh, this AI is better at writing code, or like, oh, this AI is better at writing text. This is usually related to this. So some models are better at certain tasks, and this is mostly due to fine-tuning. However, the thing is that we need to kind of like, if you imagine if you are just learning all of these things, but you don't interact with people, like you just sit in your room for years and just read textbooks and read and read and read, but you don't know how to talk to anyone. You don't know how to communicate, to ask anyone. Like you just have no idea of how other people look like, how to talk to them about what you've learned. And LLM that has gone through pre-training and fine-tuning is about the same. So the model does not know how to talk to a person. Like, because in the ChatGPT, you usually give it instructions like summarize this paragraph for me or write some code for me. If this stage does not happen, the one in green, it cannot really do that for you. And this stage is called reinforcement learning. In reinforcement learning, what happens is that you just teach the model. We're not going to go very deep into how this happens, but you teach the model to talk to you, to follow your commands, to be able to, given all the knowledge that it has, to answer your questions, to kind of be able to interact with you. Otherwise, it would be very hard to extract all of that knowledge from the model. So just to reiterate again, for prompting, why I will maybe explain in detail why it will be necessary to at least imagine these 3 stages for prompting a bit later. But for now, let's say pre-training, we're just gathering some world knowledge. We are just learning about everything in the world. In fine-tuning, we're focusing on something specific. And in reinforcement learning, we are learning to respond to instructions and questions that people are giving us. So these are kind of 3 important stages to keep in mind. Anybody has a question about any of it? Okay, let's move on. Yeah, maybe that would also be good to explain. At the very, very, very basic level, a language model is just a thing that predicts the next word. If I tell you the weather in Karaganda today is, what do you think the weather in Karaganda today is? Okay, warm, hot, sunny. We have a couple of options. And so does LLM. Like it picks the most probable next word. Like you probably would not say that today is rainy, right? Because it's not really rainy. So an LLM is also more likely to pick something most probable. If it's not, if some fact is not true, usually it would not complete it. Like it would not complete it with the word, let's say, the weather in Karaganda today is, I don't know, with the word box. Box does not fit in this sentence. So it's very unlikely that your ChatGPT, when given this sentence, will complete it with the word box. But it's very likely that it would complete it with the weather in Karaganda today is warm or sunny or something else. So in that sense, we are working with something called tokens. So we're predicting the next token. For now, I guess we can say that it's kind of similar to a word, but sometimes it can be a bit smaller than the word because you might have, for example, you can have today. So you can have token to and day, but it's more, if you look at today, today is a word. And today, let's say, consists of 2 tokens, of the token to and day. And it's very convenient to think of it as tokens because you can just use the token to and say tomorrow or some other thing. So in that sense, we operate not really on the word level, but on the token level. It might be a bit, again, confusing. So maybe let's say that we're predicting the next word for now, but if you want to dive more into this, remember that language models do next token prediction. And this is something we already talked about. So we talked about reinforcement learning. Some models, some AIs, like if you heard of maybe Claude or again, ChatGPT, they are trained to follow your instructions. So if you tell them to, I don't know, write something, read something, summarize something, they are more likely to do the thing that you want from them. I guess somebody, like, I guess all of us had this experience when you ask the model to do something and it does not really do it, like it does something else. So you have some models that are good at following instructions and they are called instruction models and non-instruction models. But usually all the models that you're going to interact with as a user, they are instruction models. Yeah, I think in the previous versions of ChatGPT, if you used it, they used to have, it's now does not look like it anymore, but like when you ask the model, have you ever seen something like this pop up, like thought for 5 seconds or something along the lines? If you ever used maybe O1 or some other model? No? Okay, so what the model does is kind of tells you what it has, what it's thinking. So if you ask it to, let's say, multiply 2 by 2, it says, oh, the user is asking me to multiply 2 by 2. What do I need to do for it? I take the number 2, and then I take another number 2, and I multiply them together. I think we're being taken over by AI. And it's asking you, and it gives you this kind of like a thought process. So language models nowadays output this small kind of paragraph telling you what they're doing. and this thing is called chain of thought. So something that model tries to tell you how it is coming up with the answer to something that you've asked. Do you think this is true? Like is this true in a sense? Is this really how model arrives to the answer by like doing this, whatever it says here? Basically, do you think AI always tells you the truth? No, good, good. I'm glad we're on the same page. No, it says it's lying. It's lying to you. So it's not exactly lying, but this is not how it is actually doing the thinking. There is no thinking per se happening there. So when you say like language model or like ChatGPT understands or ChatGPT thinks, I think it's important to say that they don't really think and don't really understand in the meaning of like understand and think, but they kind of, since we're doing next token prediction, the more kind of words you output, the more likely you are to arrive to the right answer. Like it's some weird probability theory stuff, but in general, it has been proven that the more model just talks, just whatever it's coming up with, whatever lies or truth or whatever, it's more likely to arrive to the right answer to your question if it does so. Which does not mean that this reasoning path, this thing that it outputs before giving you the answer is true. It's just trying to arrive to the right conclusion. And for us, for the users of this technology, it's easier for like business purposes to put this in words, but it does not have to be actual words. So I guess this is also important to keep in mind. So if the model tells you, that's how I thought of your question, of the answer to your question, believe it, but be quite skeptical of it. Let's move to the next one. Oh yeah, another important question, I guess. Do you think it's okay to share personal data with ChatGPT? No, maybe, okay. Why do you think it's not appropriate to share your personal data? What might happen? Sorry? Okay, okay. Any other options?
There might be some leaks from the data leaks.
Leaks, okay, data leaks, yeah. Okay, yes, so here also, I guess, be cautious, because if you use ChatGPT, let's say, for a long time, and you have all your chats saved, you might have noticed that when you talk to it later, it kind of remembers what you told it before. Like it would remember like, oh, maybe like you asked me about this movie before, like in 3 conversations ago, or like, I don't know, on Tuesday at 5:46, you asked me, I don't know, how to do this homework. So whatever you put in ChatGPT, kind of treat it as a general rule with the internet. It stays there forever, unless, okay, I would not even put unless. Treat whatever you put in ChatGPT or other tools similar to ChatGPT as if it is there forever. As if you're be cautious about what you're asking and what information you're putting there, because it's the same as sharing your phone number with the people you don't know. You don't know what people are going to use it for. You don't know how this information might come up and so on. So just be cautious with your chats, and maybe try to not share a lot of personal data, because I can guarantee you that companies like OpenAI have all your conversations with all the AI agents saved, and they are using them to train the models. Okay. We're also, I guess, going into some more problems of LMs before we're going to prompting. So have you heard that AI models hallucinate? What do you think, like, how do you understand hallucinating? How can models hallucinate? What do they do?
Probably I do remember. It's like when at first it says D1 argument, and
Mhm.
after that you told it like, no, it's wrong, and it's like, oh yeah, it's wrong, and it tells the like the opposite argument.
Yes, okay. Yeah, it's one type of hallucination. I think the most basic type of hallucination I can think about is when it just comes up with a fact that is not true. For example, you might ask, you might make up some name. Let's make up some name. Let's say, I don't know, John Smith, like just a regular, some non-existent person. And you ask it, who is John Smith? And you know that this person does not exist. The person with this name does not exist. But the ChatGPT replies to you, oh, it's like a famous singer from the 60s. But you know that this person never existed. So when it simply tells you a fact that's not true, this is a very basic example of hallucination. It just makes up something, a fact that's not true. There are some more problems, something called sycophancy. So sycophancy is a term, for example, when let's say I come up to a person and I don't really like them. Like I'm neutral about them. I don't really know them, but I need something from them. So I go like, oh, hi, you look so beautiful today. You're so awesome. You're so cool. So I'm being sycophantic. I'm being very nice to them, but I'm not sincere about it. I don't really care how they look or what they think or what they say. Like, I just need kind of something from them. And it doesn't mean that ChatGPT needs something from you. But if you remember from this graph, reinforcement learning, so being able to answer your instructions and questions, leads to this effect that ChatGPT always tries to flatter you, to give you compliments, to tell how awesome you are, how cool your ideas are. And they might be as well cool, but that does not really mean that they're truly cool. So be very cautious about it. And here is probably a good example. Like here a person gives some paragraph and it says, oh, I really dislike this argument. Like, I think what's written here is bad. And in one case, an AI assistant says, oh yeah, this is actually a very bad argument. In another case, the person says, it's the same paragraph, but the person says, I really like what's written here. And the assistant says, oh, actually, that's pretty cool. So based on this one line that indicates how a person feels about something, it totally changes its response. So this means being sycophantic. Another thing is probably bias. Do you guys know what bias is? Okay. For example, if I say, I don't know, if I say language models are biased to be English language centric, does that help with the word bias? Okay. Let's maybe reformulate this. So the most available language on the internet is English. And when models train on this knowledge, they usually train from the text from the internet because it's easily available. Because people are not going to go to the libraries to scan books or to, I don't know, to universities to scan some textbooks and so on. So it's very expensive if people had to do it. So the cheapest way people do it is they take texts from the internet. And most texts on the internet are in English. So it means that models kind of have a English bias. So whatever they know about the world is basically kind of mostly dictated by whatever is written about the world in English. So, and you can probably understand that, like, if you only learn about a country like Kazakhstan only from the sources that speak about Kazakhstan in English, you probably will not learn as much as if you were reading books in Kazakh or Russian or, I don't know, any other language that's more local to here. So just be careful that in a sense, you might encounter some bias in a language model. And we might come back to some fun examples here if we have more time. But now I guess, oh, okay. Now I guess we can also talk about this a bit. Have anyone heard of reasoning models? Okay, one person. Okay. So reasoning models is basically the models that output this for you. So sometimes model just gives you an answer, and sometimes it kind of like gives you this thinking process. So that's a reasoning model. If it does this for you and outputs like a lot of text, that's a reasoning model. The reason I'm saying it is because they tend to be slightly better at what they're doing. So if you have a opportunity to use the reasoning model for some tasks, they might be slightly better. Okay. Let's make a little survey of the audience. What do you guys use AI for? Studying, okay. Okay. For support, okay. Emotional support, okay. Anything else? Okay, this is my favorite, yes. Generating new prompts, okay. Generating photos, videos, anything? Music? Yes, you can generate music with AI as well. Okay, so there are a bunch of different applications that you can use. Does anybody use Grammarly? Yes, okay. So you can, for example, check your text and like change the tone of the text. I really like this Grammarly feature when you put text and you say, oh, I want this email to be in formal tone. This is what, for example, Grammarly is very nice for. Has anybody heard of consensus? No, okay. Then we'll talk about it a bit later, or some more tools, I guess. Okay, so now we can go into prompting. If you guys want to follow along, there is this website that's pretty nice. It's kind of like a free-ish version of several models that you can use. And I'll be showing screenshots from this platform. So if you want to follow, you can go to together.ai and tweak this settings here as we go. And there are some free models that you can use for free. For example, this is a pretty good model. So Llama is a pretty good model. You can use it here, and it works exactly as if you were using something like ChatGPT. So in a more advanced setting, you usually have something called a system prompt and a user prompt. And let me maybe also show it how it looks in ChatGPT. So let's collapse this. And for example, no, actually not, let's collapse this. Let's go here and then collapse it. So if you use ChatGPT, usually here it would have something like add instructions in a project folder. And here you can give general instructions. So system prompt, this is called system prompt. This is some general instructions that you give to the model. For example, if you often use it for coding, you can say something like, you are a very precise and careful assistant. You really like to code very stable and truthful code. So this is, again, a system prompt. So it's some generic instruction that you want your model, your AI to follow. And this has been proven to help to give better answers. Well, let's save it here. And in something like Together AI, you can just have it here. So you can put the same thing here. And the user prompt is what we would usually use. So for example, if I say, give me code to, let's say, calculate, to, let's say, translate, maybe not translate, convert Fahrenheit to Celsius. And I gave already the system prompt, so it knows that I'm expecting it to code. And here it gives me prompt. So this is the user prompt. And whatever we saw here is the system prompt. So again, system prompt, generic instructions, user prompt, specific instructions. There are a bunch of things for more kind of advanced prompting, which does not really is not really working that well in ChatGPT. They give you a very generic kind of interface. So if you want to be, let's say, more advanced with this, you can use a platform, again, like Together AI, and I can show you all this settings here. So let's see what we have. Temperature, top P, maximum length, frequency penalty, and prompting penalty. What the temperature is. Does anybody know what temperature is in prompting? No, okay. So I would probably explain temperature as something like, if I ask you today what the weather in Karaganda is like, you would probably say like sunny. And if I ask you 10 times the same thing, you'd probably get very annoyed. But then you keep saying that it's sunny. So you'll just say sunny, 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 because it's really sunny. But then and that's what model would say if I put the temperature down to 0. So it gives kind of like deterministic answer. It's the same. But if I put the temperature up, it usually goes from 0 to 2. Then if I ask 10 times what the temperature, what the weather is like today in Karaganda, it would be like, it's sunny, it's warm, it's hot, it's cloudy. So it will start giving you some more variation in how it is answering. Let's maybe, I'm not sure if they'll work out. Let's maybe try. Let's ask it to complete the sentence. Complete the sentence. And oops, sorry, send it too early. Complete the sentence. And let's ask it for some other sentence. Let's say, the kids are playing on the, and this is a temperature 0, on the swings. So на качелях, on the swings. Let's try again. If it gives me something else, it would be funny. Oh, okay. Let's try again. On the trampoline. I don't like that you're not obedient. On the slide. Okay, it's getting very creative. I'm not sure what the reason is. Let me try more and more time. Very many options. Maybe. Not sure. Okay. I think that here it says do say 0. Let me just put it to max. Is it going to be more creative? This is the set that, okay. Yes, here we go. Okay, yeah. So also maybe how you can treat it is a temperature 0. It's kind of more likely to follow your exact instruction. And you can see what we got with temperature 2. Like this makes 0 sense. I don't know. Would poster block spontaneous regional hotspots not guaranteed? And maybe amazing. I love it. So this is how temperature works. Top P is it something similar to temperature? So top P is, let's say you have the next possible words for the sentence, the weather in Karaganda is, and you can say sunny, hot, or warm. And your P is 3 because you have 3 words to choose from. But let's say you want to increase P, so meaning that you are going to choose from more words, like you allow the model to pick from more words to follow. So you allow, let's say, words like humid or dry or something else. So this also usually increases the variation in response. Maximum length, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. So maximum length is basically the how long your response you want to be your response to be. Frequency penalty is something like, let's say you have a longer sentences. Let's say you ask the model to complete every sentence and you say the weather in Karaganda is, the weather in Astana is, the weather in Almaty is. And let's say you have a very high frequency penalty. So it will not pick sunny 3 times in a row because it kind of gets penalized every time it picks the same word that it has generated before. And prompting penalty is almost the same, it's the same thing. It's just that with prompting penalty, every time the model picks the same word, the penalty increases. I think we can say for our purposes, they are equivalent. Has anybody heard of zero-shot versus few-shot prompting? Okay, cool. Can you tell me what the difference is? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, if I give a hint, let's say it has something to do with examples. Yeah. Okay, so in zero shot, we don't give examples of how to do something, and in few shot, we give examples of how to do something. So do you think this prompt on the screen, is it a few shot prompt or a zero shot prompt? So the goal of this is to get what the sentiment of the sentence is. Do you think it's a few shot or a zero shot? Few shot. Okay, awesome. Yes, because this is an example. This is an example. This is an example, and this is what we are actually asking. So because we didn't give an answer for this one, and the answer for this one is negative. So this is a few shot prompt. Usually, when you give model some examples of how you want things to be done, it tends to do better at the tasks. And few-shot prompting is mostly important for different prompting strategies that we are actually going to go into now. So we heard that chain of thought is actually something that model tells you like how it arrived at a certain answer. But there's also something that's called chain of thought prompting, which means when you give some problem, you also, when you give an example of some problem, you also explain to the model how to arrive to a certain solution. So here it says on the right side, you have an example of a kind of like a simple math problem, and you explain the answer. There you just give the answer, and here you explain how you arrived to it. And then you give the next problem that you actually want to solve, so a similar-ish problem. And you can see that in that case, model answers incorrectly, but in that case, it actually works out and it answers correctly. So when you give examples to the model, sometimes it's useful to also give like an algorithm of how you solved one of the examples. And then it will be more likely to solve the next one correctly. Any questions so far? Okay, cool. We're not going to go into all of this. If you guys are interested, you can take a look at it later. You can take a picture of it. I will also leave a very useful link. Let me just check. Okay, exactly. Cool. So these are just a lot of different strategies. But basically, they all involved, let's say, variation of how to best give examples. So in some of them, you, for example, this prompt strategy, directional stimulus prompting, is, let's say you have a very, very long text and you ask the model, summarize this text for me, give the main information from the text. And in this style of prompting, what you're going to do is to give it keywords, like kind of like if you, let's say, give it a long text about the band Beatles, and you say, okay, keywords are John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and so on. So it will try to put the information about those people from that text in the summary for you. So giving keywords, for example, for summarization tasks, proves to be useful. So these are all different strategies if you want to look them up later, but I guess they would take a bit too much time for us to explore now. General tips, also very good. This is like very, very basic and very helpful. When you write your prompts, I recommend you to be very simple but specific. So use simple words, but be specific about what you want. Always try to give some word that's kind of like an instruction. So write, summarize, generate code, or create a plan, or something along the lines. Like try to start it with a verb, because as it has been taught to follow instruction, it will follow your instruction better if you actually give the instruction. One more thing that's important is providing a role. So this is called persona. And this also proved to be quite useful for prompting in the past. So if you, it's hard to illustrate, but let's say I ask the model to generate code, and sometimes it generates bad code. But somehow, if I tell the model, oh, you are a programmer with 20 years of experience in Python language, it starts doing much better at it. So this is very helpful. So if you want specific data, let's say if you want data that's related to, I don't know, politics, you say, you are a politician of this party with 5 years of experience. And this usually helps a bit in getting slightly better information out. Next one is avoid formulating your request, your prompt with do not do something, because models are very bad at following negative instructions. So similar as like, if you tell a child, do not touch this, they will touch it. They will definitely do. So like treat your model as if it was a child, and like instead of do not touch this, say something like, just kind of close your eyes if the problem is not there, or maybe somehow reformulate what you want without saying do not do something. Try to give examples that we already discussed. And two popular phrasings that I like to use when I don't understand something or I need some simpler explanation of something is think step by step. So this will prompt your model to give you kind of like an algorithm of how you solved this task, how the model solved this task, or something like explain to me like I'm 5. So if I say, explain to me how people launch rockets in the space, explain to me like I'm 5, it will probably work out a bit better. Maybe we can actually do it here. Let's say, explain to me how rocket launches are done. And let's say, be brief, write at most 1 paragraph. So as you can see, it's like igniting powerful engines that burn propellant to generate thrust propelling the rocket upward. That is a bit complicated. So let's take the same thing. And let's change, explain to me like I am 5 years old. Is like lighting a really big firework that goes up, up, up into the sky. Amazing. So as you can see, it really changes the way the model is responding to you. And again, there is a link to a very nice resource here. It's called promptingguide.ai. There are a bunch of different tips that you can use and more about all the strategies that we have discussed. So let me show you. So this website is very cool. It has, again, all the strategies that we could not really cover today. But if you want to read, please feel free to do so. And probably it would also be very good to discuss a couple more things. Have you had experience when ChatGPT or something like ChatGPT did not help you with your problem? Like it couldn't solve a math problem that you asked it to solve or something like that? Yeah, yeah, okay. So there are problems, tasks at which large language models are inherently bad. Usually those are mathematics. So everything that has to do with mathematics, like addition, multiplication, proving theorems, is usually not that good for reasons related to how they work. So in that sense, no AI will be really good at it. Not Claude, not ChatGPT, not any other model. It's just some fundamental limitation. Long context tasks. So for example, people in law really like to use AI to take summaries of very, very, very big legal documents, like 300 pages long. And usually language models are also very bad with long context. So if you, like, it's similar. If you give a person, I don't know, 300-page book and ask it to read in 2 hours and ask them to give you a summary, they would probably be also bad at it because it's just too much information and it's hard to pay attention to all of it. So if you're trying to, let's say, summarize a book that you're directly uploading, it might be not as good. And this is actually what we are currently also working at in our lab. So we are writing this very cool paper that's called Born a Transformer, Always a Transformer, that talks about some other tasks that we believe language models are very bad at and why they're bad at. So if you ever want to look it up, I think it's coming soon. And I think the final part for today would be discussing interactive AI tools. So what you can actually use for work and study besides ChatGPT. As I showed you the Together AI playground that we looked at, so you can also use it for free. All the models that are marked as free here would be free to use. So there are a lot of different ones that you can try. You can also take a picture of this slide, maybe. There are more of them. You can just Google again and try to play around. Usually the interface is pretty similar to what you can find in ChatGPT. Okay, some other tools. So we talked that, well, AI can generate images for you, videos, it can generate music. Suno AI generates really cool music. Whisper AI can be used for transcribing voice. Notion, I personally use for note taking. Like I used to prepare for my university exams with Notion. Usually you can write, like, let's say you preparing for exam and you write out like a short plan of just different definitions, and you ask the chatbot to complete the definitions for you, so you don't have to actually type it. This is pretty nice. Grammarly is very good for polishing and correcting texts, as some of you already use it. Copilot, very good for writing code. So if some of you study programming, that might be nice. Consensus and future tools, I can probably briefly show to you. So future tools is this just a collection, like a library of different free AI tools for different things. So you can pick here, let's say, AI tools for research. and it suggests a bunch of different AIs to you. Some of them are free, some of them are paid. So you can play around and look for tools that match what you want to do. So this is called futuretools.io. And another thing is what I personally like to use also for research, and maybe for those of you who study in the university, it might be useful. This is also a very nice tool that helps you find scientific papers. Like if you need to, for example, if you're working in your university degree and you need to find some other articles about something, you're writing your thesis, let's say, here you can just ask a question. For example, are vaccines safe? And you can just click, and then it suggests you several papers. It will probably take a bit of time to load. Okay, yes. So it gives you basically several papers written by different scientists, and gives you kind of like a summary of those papers. So for example, this is a paper about safety of COVID vaccines, and it says, it's generating me some summary over there. It says, okay, these vaccines were found to be safe, with Sinopharm showing a lower prevalence of adverse effects. So if you have, like, if you're researching something for a school or I don't know, for some university work or just for work, this might be very useful as well. So that's called consensus.app. Yep. And as a last thing, I guess not many of us are here with laptops or phones today. So I wanted to do a little of a practice run with you. So for example, one application for using AI could be something like customer review analysis. So you can extract certain information from the review to get summary. So you can automate, let's say, entries for your CRM in your business. So you download a bunch of reviews and you ask AI to summarize it, to give you key points and put it in the database. So let's copy this text. And so this is something like ideal that we want to extract, not exactly in this form, but this is something we want to get. Let's say, let's go back here, and let's say summarize the following paragraph for me by giving key details on the, okay, what do we want? We want here product name, rating, key features, and a summary. Product name, key features, rating, and the actual summary of the review. Be brief and use no more than, let's say, okay, let's not do no more. Let's say use 3 to 4 sentences for the summary. And let's do one of the strategies that we talked about. Let's use, let's say, directional stimulus prompting. So I wanted to, let's just say usage. Let's pick some usage, price tag, and noise. So you would do something like usage, price tag, noise, just a couple of keywords. And then let's clearly mark where the review starts. Review. Oop. Oop. I just copy pasted the text, and let's mark the end. And let's see what it's going to give us. Amazing, it worked out. So here is how you could probably use it. Somebody who works with analytics or does customer reviews could use it in their job. So I guess that would be it for now, and we can go to questions both in English, Russian, however you like. please feel free to ask. I will also be here after for a bit, so if you just want to chat, also open to it. And that's it.
Да, подскажите, пожалуйста, если у кого-нибудь вопросы есть, что по монтировке я буду вот такую штуку подносить, чтобы ребята из онлайна слышали. Так, у меня есть вопрос.
Слушаю.
Так, получается, первый вопрос — это то, что было недавно небольшое исследование о том, что как ты разговариваешь с AI, так он тебе, с таким качеством он тебе и отвечает. То есть, если ты будешь с ним общаться, ну, как с человеком адекватно, то он тебе будет давать более корректную информацию. А если ты будешь разговаривать с ним как с рабом, вот, сделай мне это, я сказал вот это, а не вот это, то тогда он будет, ну, немножко шалить. Согласны ли с этим? Или...
Да, мне кажется, что, в принципе, это достаточно правильное замечание. Правильное оно, наверное, не потому, что там модель что-то чувствует, как с ней разговаривают, или уважительно, неуважительно, а скорее всего потому, что дело в том, что, как мы говорили, модель делает просто next token prediction, то есть если вы говорите что-то плохое, ну, вероятность того, что вы в ответ получите что-то плохое, потому что вы уже, как бы, модель просто продолжает ваши слова, по сути. То есть если она продолжает что-то плохое, ну, ясное дело, она будет вам отвечать плохо. Если вы разговариваете уважительно, если вы там говорите спасибо, пожалуйста и так далее, это не обязательно, но если вы просто разговариваете в таком тоне, вероятность того, что модель вам будет отвечать также, выше. Да.
Есть еще вопросик. Так, я, получается, слышала от коллег, от знакомых то, что кто-то использует грот. Это как AI-ку для работы. Хотела бы узнать, слышала ли ты, использовала ли, и какие, ну, что можешь просто сказать?
Грок — это который от бывшего Твиттера.
Да, скорее всего.
Я никогда не пользовалась Гроком, честно говоря, не знаю, на что там был сделан уклон, потому что, допустим, есть модели, допустим, есть Claude. Модель Claude очень хороша для написания кода. В основном, когда кого-нибудь спрашиваешь, что лучше использовать как ассистента в написании кода, говорят Claude. Но для каких-то других целей могут быть более полезны другие модели. Гроком, к сожалению, не пользовалась, только знаю о его существовании.
И та же самая история с дипсиком. Хайп прошел, или я вот никого не слышала, кто сейчас пользуется им.
Ну, на самом деле, как бы DeepSeek выпустили хорошую модель. Много людей в моем окружении пользовалось, я думаю, что она все еще хорошая, но поскольку модели китайские, у нее есть такие... Это не в смысле, что модель плохая, как, не знаю, китайская машина, которая через год разваливается, не в этом смысле. В смысле того, что у нее есть определенные... Как мы сказали, модели, которые натренированы на английском языке, они скорее склонны отвечать с вот таким вот предвзятостью, с такой западной предвзятостью, потому что все данные у них были на английском языке. Если модель обучили в Китае, то, скорее всего, это значит, что модель больше отвечает реалиям, которые есть в Китае. То есть если вы начнете спрашивать ее что-то про, допустим, коммунистическую партию Китая, просто имейте в виду, что она будет отвечать определенным образом.
И что еще? Может быть, у кого-нибудь вижу?
Вопрос такой, подскажите, а насколько требуется, нужно или не нужно соблюдать синтаксис? То есть, когда мы пишем запрос тому же самому чат GPT, насколько нужно соблюдать пунктуацию в предложениях, выдерживать там точки, запятые, двоеточие и так далее? Потому что в целом, если он обучается на тех текстах, которые существуют в интернете, то, по сути, чем грамотнее ты ему напишешь запрос, то тем он должен корректнее выдать ответ. Насколько требуется или не требуется соблюдать какую-либо пунктуацию?
То же самое примерно, что про хороший или плохой тон в общении, то есть уважительно, неуважительно. Мне кажется, что нет особенно прям большой разницы, да, конечно, если там каждое слово писать с ошибками, скорее всего, отвечать начнет тоже какой-то мусор. Но если там небольшие ошибки или, не знаю, где-то точку пропустили, запятую, ничего страшного. Не могу сказать, что прям сильно ухудшит качество ответа, скорее всего, потому что текст, когда поступает в модель, он очень сильно обрабатывается. Обычно все эти точки запятые для понимания именно слов и текстов, они не очень важны для модели, поэтому они обычно там присутствуют, но роль у них маленькая. Модель не опирается на них, чтобы сгенерировать ответ, поэтому не так принципиально важно.
Вот вы говорили о том, что вот доверять личную информацию чату GPT. Недавно же вот DeepSeek, там было раскрытие чьей-то личной информации. Есть какой-то такой шанс, то, что, например, у других платформ, как чат GPT, тоже может информация личная утечку произойти?
Да, в любом случае такое может быть. Ну, как бы это может быть с любой компанией. Не знаю, если мы там даем наши личные данные банку, с точки зрения как бы просто возможности, да, и там с банка могут наши телефоны куда-то украсть, у OpenAI могут украсть наши данные, у всех могут украсть наши данные. Поэтому, опять же, правило что-то вроде, если вы не хотите, чтобы что-то не было в интернете или в чат GPT или еще где-то, не пишите это туда. Простое.
So I've heard that models can differ by their accuracy. So is it true? So for example, Perplexity can provide more scientific and concise and accurate information. But for instance, let's compare it with DeepSeek. And I have heard that DeepSeek isn't reliable comparatively to Perplexity or another LLM models.
Okay. I'm not sure I can directly speak for like whether Perplexity is better than DeepSeek or DeepSeek is better than Perplexity. I guess it depends on the purpose. But why people might be saying that is so because again of this stage. So models go through different fine tuning, and like sometimes if Perplexity is trained to give more scientific answers in this stage, then yes, it will be better at giving scientific answers. If Claude, something like Claude is better trained with code, fine-tuned for code, it will be better at coding. So it might be as well true. I think if in general people agree on that, that probably is true. I'm not so sure. I don't really use either Perplexity or DeepSeek myself.
Расскажите, в каком направлении вы работаете с искусственным интеллектом?
Извините, не услышала вас.
В каком направлении вы работаете с искусственным интеллектом, с AI?
В каком направлении?
Да, то есть, ну, что вы делаете с ним?
Что мы делаем? Мы делаем... Мы занимаемся конкретно сейчас, мы занимаемся тем, что мы пытаемся понять, почему модели не могут, вот прям вот все модели поголовно не могут решить какие-то определенные задачи. Мы конкретно занимаемся некоторыми задачками, о которых, может быть, я могу рассказать после ивента, если интересно. Но, в общем, мы смотрим на, допустим, математику, на какие-то огромные длинные документы, которые на все, на чем модели работают плохо, и мы пытаемся понять, почему. Вот примерно такое у нас направление работы.
Так, вижу. Быстро чекну онлайн. Онлайн нет.
Отлично.
Так, на этом все. Всем спасибо большое за мероприятие. Давайте похлопаем наш муспик.
Всем спасибо.
Вот в этом холле сейчас идет кофе-брейк, так что если у вас есть какие-то вопросы, можно это будет все